Biscuits. Where should you be going if you are a digital nomad this winter? What are fun escape vacations, places to work? Now, I say this with the caveat of, these are great places that have either co-working space or good weather or are fun to see, but remember, you always want the proper work visa if you're actually going to work from there and it's not a vacation. Make sure you're handling the legality of it. Don't just go somewhere and think, I can work for 5 months and not declare that. Don't screw with that. Do the proper route. I'm just going to caveat that because I see a lot of people going, oh, I know somebody on Instagram that goes for like 4 months trips to countries and is technically working the whole time. And I think they are just asking for trouble. I really do. I'm like, I think they're going to get kicked out of a country eventually, but we shall see. Okay, so in no particular order, I didn't order these by like importance or how much fun they are. These are really great places to go. So number one is Berlin. Berlin has a lot of like under 40 self-employed digital nomads. Germany has a digital nomad visa that you can get, and you can also visit it and hang out with people that then you make connections with and can communicate with and do projects with from your country. So it's going to be really fun space. I think Berlin has a very young, newish vibe. And I would not say it's a super family-friendly city. So if you are a digital nomad with kids, it wouldn't be as high on my list unless they were older kids. If they were like teenagers, it would be great. They would have lots of fun there. My kids are, a 3rd grader and a 2-year-old toddler, and so it's not quite as friendly for them there. There is a lot to do for kids, but not necessarily the best for like a young kid digital nomad. But it's a great area and a place where you can be a digital nomad. Now, it's not going to have great weather in the winter, but it's going to have fun winter activities to do. And it's going to have a lot of people that know how to handle the winter, which is lovely to do because sometimes you go somewhere that's a little cold and no one knows how to handle the winter because it's like a summer destination only. So none of the houses you can rent are insulated. Nobody has heating. It can be a big issue. So make sure if you're going to go somewhere cold in the winter, it's somewhere that has a winter scene so that they actually have homes that are built for it. This is one of my favorite cities. It's the oldest city in the United States. But you didn't know this, it's St. Augustine, Florida. We really like St. Augustine. I know people have a lot of trouble with Florida for a lot of different reasons. Some people say it's too conservative, some people say it's not conservative enough. We aren't going to get into that. Not a political statement. It's that St. Augustine is a really cute city. It's very walkable as well if you just want to be in the tourist trappy area downtown and then walk to areas. I would recommend renting a car, but you could be a digital nomad in St. Augustine, Florida, stay in the right spot, and do a lot of fun stuff without having to rent a car. I should have said that about Berlin. Berlin you can do without a car, which is great. So something I look for when I travel is not needing to rent a car, because that adds logistics, a lot of wasted time. It's very expensive, and it just becomes more about driving instead of being in a place. So both Berlin and St. Augustine you can do without a car. You're going to have to figure out how to get from the airport to St. Augustine, so you'll have to do a shuttle or a taxi ride or something. So take that into consideration, but it is totally doable, which is nice because there's not a lot of places in the U.S. that I would consider that you don't need a car. And for me, as a digital nomad kind of vibe person, which is maybe a certain way of traveling too, even more so than just, working while you go. I find it important to have a place where, in theory, I could avoid having a car, which is not an easy thing to do. Okay, here's another one in the United States, actually on the opposite coast. It is Santa Barbara, California. So Santa Barbara, my hometown, is full of shockingly wealthy snobberoos, but is a beautiful place, has very temperate Mediterranean. It's like, probably 55 to 75 degrees as a high in the winter. It doesn't get super cold, doesn't snow, and wintertime can be a really nice time of year in Santa Barbara. Another bonus about Santa Barbara is you can do it without a car if you stay in the right spot. It's going to make grocery shopping a little tricky, but as long as you don't mind taking the bus occasionally to get your groceries, it is a city that if you stay in the right place, you can do it without a car, which always puts something high on my list because I'm like, can I please avoid a car? If at all possible. Be warned, it's a very expensive place to stay. When I'm done listing these cities, I'm going to do a little comparison about different costs associated with it, but I just want to do an overview of these towns. Santa Barbara is a beautiful city. It's kind of a Spanish Californian style town. It's really lovely, and because it's kind of a very wealthy tourist enclave, it does have a lot of fun little amenities and things, which is cool to see. And it has a little mini tech scene in it as well, which is great fun. Probably, is this my favorite city in the whole wide world? Ooh, that's a tough one. Okay, I'm not sure if it's it might be. Rome, Italy. So Italy is working on digital nomad visa, but if you are an EU citizen, you don't need the visa. You can just come on over. And Rome has great working spots if you want a little office away while you're digital nomading. It's got really nice winter weather and a ton of fun stuff to do. And you don't need a car for this one. You can do public transport, you can do the metro, you can do bus system, you can do high-speed rail. It's a really vibrant city that has a sense of longevity to it because it's been there so long. You get to see the past into the present, and you really get to see, oh, the future is going to be this unchanged monolith in parts with all this technology coming around it, which can be really fun. I really enjoy Rome. It has a very creative vibe, so if you are in a creative digital nomad field, I think Rome is a really good vibe for you. I always think Berlin has a bit more of a tech vibe feel, as does Santa Barbara. St. Augustine is more like surfer kind of vibe to it, I would say, a little bit. I mean, surfer is probably not the right term, but kind of laid back. So if you're like a laid back author, maybe that's a good one for you. Okay, so let me go through each town and give you some of the pros and cons. Okay, so first I'm gonna get my little pad. First I'm gonna do car rentals. So I've pretty much named places that you can go and you don't need to rent a car, but ease of transportation. The easiest for you to get around is probably going to be Berlin and Rome. And for the U.S. cities, I'm going to say St. Augustine is a little bit easier to get around than Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara doesn't have great public infrastructure. St. Augustine is super tiny. That's the only reason it's so easy to get along. But all four of these places you can get around on public transport if you just do your research ahead of time, which can save you a ton of money and time and effort of having to get the car and figure out where to park it. Make sure you're staying somewhere central that works for you. If you're staying in one of the American cities, Rome and Berlin, you can stay kind of more outskirts because there will be more transportation options. Okay, general cost for trips. So this is hard for me to gauge because are you taking a vacation this winter and you're bringing your family from the US to Europe or from Europe to US, or are you digital nomading and you have a visa and you're going to be there for 4 or 5 months? Because your costs are going to be drastically different. My number one tip is if you can stay a month somewhere, month rates for vacation rentals are so much cheaper than by the night if you're staying. Sometimes it costs less to stay somewhere a month than it does a week. So really consider that out. Rome and Berlin have great places to stay. You can even do little hub spaces and hostels and all sorts of things. If you are a family of digital nomads, then you can stay in a vacation rental, and those are just all over. They're really fun to see. St. Augustine, I don't think has a lot of good hotels for digital nomads, in my opinion. So you want to do a vacation rental. And Florida vacation rentals are really weird. They don't come with a lot of amenities. So like think about bringing your own toilet paper and, double checking what's there, and they're just a little iffy on all of that. So just double check what amenities you think are standard that may not come with your vacation rental. Santa Barbara vacation rentals, you can't vacation rental by the day. So you need to plan for at least a month stay because you really can't get a legal vacation rental for less than that. So Santa Barbara has a minimum of a month stay, really, if you're going to actually try to get a vacation rental. Of those, I think the most expensive to stay in are going to be Santa Barbara and Berlin. You can find really cheap deals in Rome, and you can find some deals in St. Augustine, but I would say Florida is pretty heavily priced up, especially in the wintertime. So I honestly think you can do a trip to Rome or Berlin for less than Santa Barbara and St. Augustine. I think the cost of living and vacation rentals is higher in the U.S. Not for everything, of course, but like for deals available. Food costs. Ooh, probably your cheapest food is going to be in Rome, I think. Florida has really high cost of food. California has a lot of really delicious food, but it's not cheap. It's a little bit less in general going grocery shopping in California than Florida. And Berlin kind of evens out. So Berlin and Santa Barbara are probably about similar cost for food, although I find European grocery stores to be a little less expensive sometimes. Florida is really high, super high groceries, double your grocery budget if you're going to shop in Florida. And Rome, generally, you can find pretty good deals. Okay, how is it for family friendliness? This is probably the most important one for me. I think those all four could be family friendly depending on the age of your kids. St. Augustine, if you're going to do a family trip, you want a car because you want to be able to go to the beach, and public transport's kind of shaky on that. So get a car so that you can take your kids to all the fun stuff when you aren't working for St. Augustine. Santa Barbara can be very family friendly, but it is the most expensive place to stay on this list. So really consider whether you want to put all your money towards accommodation. St. Augustine is within a couple hours drive of Orlando and all the kids museums, so tons to do. Santa Barbara has one kids museum and it's pretty lackluster, so there's not a lot of kid specific things to do if you're only there for a month or two. Rome has some amazing gardens with kids games and playgrounds and what's the word I'm looking for, carousels and things, so there's a lot of kid stuff to do. Berlin has a pretty good amount, but not as much. I would say Rome is the most family friendly of all those places. People are going to be cool with you bringing your kids to the restaurants. They're going to have kid-centered things. It's just a little bit more of a kid-friendly society in general, I find. But, you know, each their own, and depends on the age of your kid too a whole lot. Alrighty, I hope this answers your digital nomad questions of where should you go this winter. Whether it's a little short week vacation or whether you're going for 2 or 3 months and you are just digital nomading around, I would love to hear your stories. How many of you have gone through the digital nomad visas and actually stayed somewhere and worked? How long was that for? I'm so curious what your career paths are that have brought you to the digital nomad world. Tell me down in the comments. I want to know. I will see you over on our Primal Self-Care Patreon. If you are looking while you are on the road being a digital nomad for a real amazing community of primal self-care where we are learning to listen to our inner being, take care of our outer skin and our inner selves, it's a great community. Come on and join. I'll see you over on Patreon.